Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, why am I always the one who ends up hurt? Have you ever noticed that the more you worry about your own gain and loss, the more your heart seems to tighten, as if life is pressing harder and harder on your chest? Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about something most of us instinctively avoid, yet it quietly sits at the core of our suffering, like a knot in the center of the heart. We complain about problems, about other people, about unfairness, about fate, but rarely do we turn the light around and ask, is the real root of my pain actually my own self-centeredness? This is not about blaming you or calling you a bad person. All beings are naturally self-concerned. It is instinct. When this concern turns into a rigid, tight, and questioned selfishness, life becomes heavier. Thoughts like, what about me? Why not me? What do I get? Begin to dominate, and wherever those thoughts go, pain follows. In this long sharing, I want to walk with you slowly through this territory, not as a judge pointing a finger, but as a friend sitting beside you, telling stories and gently asking questions. You will explore how selfishness shows up in subtle and not so subtle ways, how it quietly twists our relationships, our work, our spiritual practice, and most importantly, how it turns the mind into a small, suffocating room. And we will look at how the moment you start loosening that self-fixation, even a little, something in your life begins to breathe. Imagine a woman in her mid-30s. Let us call her Hermione. She is smart, capable, and outwardly kind. People around her would never describe her as cruel, yet inside, she is constantly suffering. In her romantic relationships, he feels like she is always the one who gives more and gets less. She thinks, I sacrifice so much, and what do I get back? She keeps mental accounts of every time she did something for her partner, every time she compromised, every time she forgave. If her partner forgets to reply to a message quickly, her first thought is, you do not care about me. I am obviously not a priority. If he wants to spend time with friends, she thinks, so I am not as important as them. If he forgets something she said, she concludes, you never truly listened to me. On the surface, it looks like she simply wants life. But if you listen carefully, you will hear a constant chorus of me in her thoughts. How much love am I getting? How much attention am I getting? How much respect am I getting? Am I being treated the way she wants? Work. It is similar. If the colleague receives praise, he feels invisible. He thinks, and no one sees my effort. If her boss criticizes her, she feels deeply wounded. She does not hear the content of the feedback. She only hears, you are not good enough. She spends hours replaying every word, wondering how they see her, if they respect her, if they value her. With friends, she is often disappointed. If she invites them out and they are busy, she feels rejected. If they really cared, they would make time for me. If they share problems and she listens, but later when she needs support they are unavailable, she thinks, I am always there for everyone, but no one is truly there for me. Her days are filled with this constant measuring, weighing, comparing, judging. It is exhausting. One evening, after a painful argument with your partner, she bursts into tears and says, why is love so hard? Why are people so selfish? Her partner, also frustrated, quietly replies, do you ever notice how everything is always about you? How you feel, what you want, what you did, what you deserve. Do you ever ask what someone else might be feeling? Words land like a slap. At first, she feels attacked. Her instinct is to shout back, I am not selfish. I give so much. But later that night, alone, the sentence echoes in her mind. Everything is always about you. She begins to remember conversations, not as you justified them to herself, but as they actually unfolded. She recalls how often she interrupted others to bring the topic back to her own feelings. Often she twisted neutral situations into personal insults. Often she used phrases like, you never do this for me, or after everything I have done for you. She realizes something that is both painful and liberating deep down. A has being the center of her own universe. Not because she is evil, but because her mind has been trained for years to ask only one question underneath everything. What does this mean for me? That question is exactly what we mean here by selfishness. It is not only about greed for money or possessions. It is the invisible habit of constantly putting your own feelings, your own image, your own advantage at the center, and measuring the entire world by it. In that sense, selfishness is like wearing a pair of glasses that turn everything into a mirror. No matter what you look at, the reflection coming back is still yourself. That is why it hurts so much. There is no space. Now let us look at another person, the same age as mine, living in the same city, with similar daily pressures. We will call him Aaron. He has also lived through breakups, job changes, family tension. He is not living a dream life. This inner world feels very different. In his relationship, he cares deeply about being loved. He also has needs and preferences, but he carries a different habit of mind. In conflict arises, his first thought is not always, how have you wronged me? Sometimes it is, what are you going through that makes you act like this? Or what is happening between us right now? When his partner forgets to reply quickly, he might feel a little anxious, but he also thinks that they might be busy or stressed. He does not immediately conclude that he is being abandoned. In praised at work, he feels pleased, but he does not turn it into a proof that he is better than others. When criticized, he feels discomfort, but he tries to extract the useful part. He does not instantly turn it into an attack on his worth as a human. With friends, he enjoys being appreciated, but he does not keep a strict ledger of whoism. Offers help when he can, and when he cannot, he explains honestly that someone cannot show up for him. He might feel disappointed, but his mind does not immediately label them as ungrateful traitors. The most important difference is this: Aaron does not live inside a tight circle of me, beef all the time. He remembers that other people also have worlds inside them. He sees that events have causes beyond just his own existence. Because of this, he experiences far less pain over the same kinds of situations that torment Nina. The suffering Nina feels is real. The pain in her chest is not fake, but its root is not the cruelty of others or the special unfairness of fate. Its root is a self-centered way of seeing that constantly turns everything into a personal problem. And this is exactly what spiritual teachings mean when they say selfishness is the root of suffering. Selfishness is not only about grabbing the biggest slice of cake. It is about living every moment from a contracted pine, constantly asking, is this what I want? Is this good for me? Does this make me look good? Does this hurt my pride? The more tightly you hold this pie, the more easily it feels threatened, offended, ignored, disrespected, unloved, unstable. Even small things become sharp. Friend does not immediately answer your call. If the self is tightly centered, you think, I am not important. I do not care. People always forget about me. If the self is more relaxed, you might think, they must be busy. We will talk later. An old photo of your ex appears on social media. If the self is tightly centered, you think, how dare they look so happy without me? Was I so worthless? If the self is more spacious, you might think, we had our time, tended, wish them well. What do I want to do with my life now? Event is the same. The pain or peace depends on the size of the tie you are using to interpret it. This does not mean you should stop having preferences or needs. It means that when everything is always about you, pain is never far away. Let us take this deeper, into the spiritual dimension. Many people come to spiritual practice because they are suffering. This is natural. You want relief, healing, answers. You hope meditation, prayer, recitation, or wisdom teachings will ease your pain. But if you are not careful, you can actually bring the same selfish mindset into your practice. Then, instead of freeing you, practice becomes another tool for self-obsession. Imagine someone who chants or prays every day, but their inner attitude is, if I do this, I must get blessings. If I recite enough, I must get what I want. If I give offerings, my life must become smooth. The Buddha or the divine must protect me more than others. In this mindset, the spiritual path becomes a transaction. You are not interested in awakening, compassion, or wisdom. You are interested in getting things for yourself. Nothing is wrong with asking for help, but if your entire practice is built on mine, you are actually strengthening the very root that causes suffering. When life does not meet your expectations, you feel betrayed, not only by people, but by the path itself. You might even think, I have been so devoted. Why is my fate still hard? Why am I still sick, still lonely, still failing? Underneath this complaint is a selfish assumption because I practice, my life should be easier than others. The purpose of deep spiritual practice is not to make you the center of a nicer-looking universe. It is to show you that you were never the center to begin with. That realization is not humiliating, disliberating. Suddenly you do not have to carry the whole world on the small shoulders of me. So how does selfishness actually hurt us? Practically, every day. First, it shrinks your world. When everything is about you, your circle of concern is tiny. You only care about what affects you directly. You do not see the full picture. Because of that, many situations appear far more painful than they actually are. Friend, forget your birthday. If your circle of concern includes only your feeling, the event becomes huge. I am not loved. If your circle includes your friend's busy life, their stress, their forgetfulness, it becomes smaller. They care, but they are not perfect. I can tell them how I feel without making a war. Second, selfishness isolates you. Paradoxically, the more you think about yourself, the more lonely you feel. Why? Because relationships require two things: being seen and seeing others. If you always demand to be seen but rarely try to see others, people around you will eventually feel tired. You will feel like props in your personal movie. They may give for a while, but when they realize there is no space for their own needs, they will quietly step back. And your selfish mind says, see, no one ever stays. It does not see that its own grip pushed them away. Third, selfishness amplifies every injury. Imagine walking through life with a bruise on your arm. As someone brushes against it, you feel sharp pain. You shout, "Oh, why did you hurt me?" Even if the bump was small and unintentional. The bruise, in this metaphor, is your ego. The tighter it is, the more bruised it becomes. The more bruised, the more every small contact feels like an attack. You might have noticed that some people are easily offended. Joke sends them into rage. Suggestion feels like an insult. A minor inconvenience becomes evidence of a vast conspiracy against them. This oversensitivity is often a sign of deep self-fixation. The mind is constantly scanning for threats to me. Fourth, selfishness creates a false sense of control and then shatters it. When everything is about you, you secretly believe that if you try hard enough, you can control outcomes. If people love you enough, they will never leave. If you work hard enough, you will always succeed. If you are good enough, nothing terrible should happen to you. So when suffering inevitably comes, as it does for everyone, it feels like a personal failure or a cosmic betrayal. On the other hand, when you understand that you are one being among countless beings, subject to causes and conditions far beyond your individual control, pain still hurts, but it does not feel like a unique insult. It feels like part of the shared difficulty of being alive. That shift alone reduces a huge amount of extra suffering. So with selfishness is the root. What is the medicine? The medicine is not to hate yourself. It is to grow beyond yourself. You cannot heal selfishness by attacking yourself for being selfish. That only adds another layer of me into the story. Instead, you can gently, consistently practice turning the attention upward and upward, letting the heart expand beyond the tight circle of self-concern. Here are some practical ways this can begin, in very ordinary moments. When pain rises, add others into your awareness. And next time you feel rejected, disappointed, or lonely, take a moment to acknowledge your own pain. Place a hand on your chest and silently say, "This hurts." And add one more sentence, "Right now, countless people in the world feel exactly like this." Imagine them, in different cities, in different rooms, also staring at their phones, also waiting for a message, also wondering if they matter. You are still you. Your pain is still real. But now it is held in a larger field. You are no longer the only one. You are one wave in a sea. That sea is not cold. It is the shared human condition. From there, you can take another step and silently wish, and may all of us who feel this pain find relief, wisdom, and life. In this simple act, your heart moves from self-centered suffering toward compassion. The pain itself might not vanish, but it changes flavor. It becomes less poisonous, more tender. In interacting with others, practice asking, what are they feeling? Selfishness constantly asks, how do I feel? Which is valid. But you can balance it by deliberately practicing the other question. If your friend is late, instead of instantly thinking, they do not respect me, ask, what is their day like? What stress are they under? If your partner seems distant, instead of thinking, they do not love me, ask, what worries are on their mind? Are they carrying burdens they have not expressed? If the colleague snaps at you, instead of only thinking, how dare they, ask, what pressure are they under that makes them so reactive? Again, this does not mean you accept abuse or never set boundaries. It means that even when you set a boundary, you do so from understanding rather than pure self-centered anger. In doing good, let go of the scoreboard. Selfishness loves keeping secret ledgers. I did this for you, so you owe me. I gave you this, so you must repay me. That mindset dominates. Giving becomes another way to feed the ego. Ingratitude does not meet expectations. You feel bitter. You say, I am too good to people. Always get used. One way to soften this is to occasionally do something kind where you know you will not get any praise or benefit. Or made anonymously. Help someone who cannot repay you. Give a sincere compliment without needing one back. After doing it, resist the urge to tell everyone. Just hold it silently in your heart as a private offering. This kind of action begins to retrain your mind to enjoy giving for its own sake, not only as a tool for boosting your self-image. When in practicing spiritually, shift from use to the surrender. Instead of treating your practice like a tool to get what you want, treat it as a way to align yourself with truth, with wisdom, with the well-being of all. When you sit to meditate, instead of thinking, I must get calm or else this is wasted, think, I am training my mind to be more aware for the sake of everyone I touch. When you recite or pray, instead of thinking, please give me this and that, think, please help me grow in wisdom and compassion so that I do not add unnecessary suffering to this world. As this intention deepens, practice becomes less self-centered. You begin to taste a kind of joy that is not dependent on getting things your way. The truth is that the happiest people you know are usually not those who have everything, but those whose hearts have grown larger than their own problems. You might have seen this in action. Think of someone who volunteers regularly, who cares for others, who listens deeply. Their life is not perfect. It might struggle financially, have health issues, or carry grief. Yet, when you meet them, there is a warmth in their eyes that many rich, comfortable, self-absorbed people lack. This warmth comes from a heart that is not trapped inside the cage of me all the time. On the other hand, you might know someone who has material comfort, social admiration, and many advantages, yet they are constantly unhappy. Their mind is always calculating, do I have enough? Am I loved enough? Am I admired enough? Am I safe enough? That endless measuring is itself suffering. Selfishness says, if I get everything, I will be happy. Stillness and wisdom say, if I stop clinging to everything, I will be free. None of this is meant to be an abstract moral lesson. It is meant to be a mirror. Take a moment to look into that mirror. Think of a recent situation that caused you a lot of pain. It could be a fight with someone, a disappointment at work, a financial stress, or a spiritual frustration. Ask yourself, gently and honestly, how much of my suffering came from the external situation, and how much came from my own self-focused thoughts about it? Maybe the fight was made worse by thoughts like, how dare they talk to me like that? After everything I do for them, they clearly do not appreciate me. Maybe the disappointment at work was intensified by, this means I am a failure. I am not as good as others. My value is destroyed. Maybe the financial stress was magnified by, why is this happening to me? I work harder than many people. I deserve better than this. None of those thoughts are strange. They are extremely human. But if you can see their self-centered core, you are already one step closer to freedom. The goal is not to erase your sense of self overnight. That would only create another internal war. The goal is to slowly loosen the grip. You can begin by catching yourself when you are in the middle of a storm. When you notice thoughts like always me, ever me, why me, mentally label them. Not to judge, but to see. This is the self-centered voice speaking. Just that recognition breaks the spell little. You are no longer fully merged with the thought, you are observing it. From there, you can gently ask, what else is going on here, beyond me? What is the bigger picture? What is the other person's side? What are the conditions at play? Even asking those questions opens windows in the tiny room of light starts to enter. Over time, as you practice seeing beyond yourself, your inner posture changes. You do not bend under every perceived slight. You do not panic at every loss of face. You do not hoard love or praise with the desperation of someone drowning. Instead, you begin to relax into a wider sense of being. You are still you, with your history, your preferences, your uniqueness, but you are no longer a hard stone at the center of the universe. You are a wave in the ocean, distinct yet inseparable from the whole. In that ocean, compassion grows. When someone hurts you, you still feel the sting, but you also sense their own confusion. You see their selfishness too, but now you recognize it as the sin disease you have been healing in yourself. You might still say no, still walk away from harmful situations, still protect yourself when needed. But your actions are less poisoned by hatred and more guided by clarity. This is one of the paradoxes of spiritual life. The less self-centered you become, the more solid and peaceful your sense of self feels. When you are obsessed with yourself, you are actually fragile. Ego is like thin glass. Every little impact threatens to shatter it. When you relax that obsession, your identity becomes less rigid, more flexible. You know who you are, but you also know you are more than any particular role or opinion. So if you ask, what is the real root of my suffering? The answer, spoken with love, is often the tight and questioned fixation on myself. When that fixation softens, suffering softens. To end, I want to speak directly to the part of you that feels tired. If you are exhausted from constantly worrying about your worth, your image, your gain and loss, it is okay to admit that. It is okay to say, I am tired of living in a world that is only about me. Let that exhaustion become the doorway to a different way of being. Start with small acts. Listen 1 minute longer before talking about yourself. Say, I am sorry. I did not consider how that felt for you, even when your ego does not want to. One kind thing without expecting a return. When you are in pain, remember others in pain and include them in your wishes. When you practice, dedicate some of the benefit to all beings, not just to your own life going well. These are not heroic acts. They are daily choices that gradually transform the root of suffering. If this sharing touched something in you, if you recognized your own patterns in Nine or felt drawn to the lightness of Aries' way of seeing, I invite you to reflect after this ends. Ask yourself quietly, in what area of my life is selfishness most obviously causing me pain right now? Is it in life, in family, in work, in spiritual practice, in friendships? And ask, what is one small step of less self-centeredness I can take in that area this week? At it time. Let it be a gentle vow, not a harsh demand. If you feel comfortable, you can share in the comments what you discovered about your own selfish patterns and what small step you want to take. Sometimes, hearing others speak honestly about their inner struggles helps us feel less alone and more encouraged to change. If this content helped your heart feel a little clearer, a little more open, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who may be quietly drowning in self-centered thoughts, thinking their pain is only caused by the outside world. Your support helps keep the space alive as a place where we can look honestly at the roots of suffering and walk together toward wisdom, compassion, and a freer life. Thank you for spending this time here. May you gently loosen the grip of selfishness. May your heart grow wider than your fears, and may your life gradually shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "how can I grow, love, and awaken through whatever happens?"
There comes a time when you realize you want something that belongs just to you, something that brings comfort and keeps you connected to your inner world. Wall-crafted bracelet does exactly that. Quietly, softly, and consistently. If you felt drawn to any bracelet in this video, you'll find the purchase link in the video description and many more auctions in the channel storefront. Because sometimes the smallest item can bring the biggest sense of peace.